Hello everyone. In the previous two videos, we showcased the details on how to animate and control the animation between keyframes, whether you're choosing motion tweening or classic tweening. In this video, we will talk about how to modify and control shape tweening. To do so, I am going to be using the same movie clip we've been working on for the other two, but in this case, I want to turn off the visibility of that eye, and I'm going to lock that layer so that I don't affect any changes to it. I'm going to now create me a new layer, double click the name for it, and I'm going to call this one shape, because shape tweening is what we will be creating in this layer. Now, in this case, what I want to do is I want to showcase how to shape tween something over time, and for that I'm going to create two shapes as we did when we introduced shape tweening. The first one will be a circle, and it will be on frame 1. The second one will be a square, and it will be on frame 30. So let's put my time marker on frame 1, the empty keyframe that comes with that layer, and I am going to create a circle. Let's go ahead and create the circle. And now that the circle has been created, I will select my arrow tool or my selection tool, and then I'll click on it to make sure that it actually highlights with that dot pattern to make sure that this is actually a shape. As I select it, I notice under my properties that it says that it is a shape, so I am in good shape. Let me go ahead and align it to the center of the stage really quick, just to have it as point of reference. And let me deselect that. Now, you'll notice that this keyframe is full now, and for the length of that layer, that circle exists. I want to create an empty keyframe at the end of that layer, and that empty keyframe will hold the square that I want to morph this circle into. So I'm going to make sure that I am at frame 30, select that frame, and I can either right-click to insert an empty keyframe or make use of my shortcut here, which is extremely handy, and I can say blank keyframe please, and then it gives me a blank keyframe. You will notice that the circle disappears from that frame, and it just gives me the dark empty keyframe. Now, what I want to do now is in this frame, I want to create a rectangle. So I'll draw a rectangle roughly in the center of the screen, and I'm going to select it, make sure that it is in fact a shape, and center it just like we did with the circle. Now, as you notice, when I get to frame 29 and jump to frame 30, my circle turns into the square, but I want this to morph. I want the transition to happen. We had done this when I introduced the concept of shape tweening. What I didn't show you is how to control in detail the actual shaping of the object. To do so, I said in that video that we needed to do a couple of steps more, and we have to do this every time if we want to get detail into controlling our shape modifications. So although shape tweening is extremely handy, it does require a little bit more extra work every time we work with it. And this comes to us via something that we call shape hints. Shape hints are basically, imagine if you will, they're pinpoints within your shapes that you tell the program, this point needs to morph from here to here. So it's almost like you're telling the program, this corner should go from here to this other point, or this curve needs to go from this point to this point. So you can see how this can get very detailed, and it can get very convoluted. Not complicated, it's just convoluted, because the more hints that you apply to a shape, the more time this is going to take to animate, and the more difficult your workflow is going to be. However, you get very organic animations when you work with shape tweening. So it's kind of like you need to choose where your balance is for your project. In our case, I want to simply do the animation as they are for now. So I'm going to right-click on the layer, anywhere on the shape layer. I usually prefer to right-click on the first keyframe that is going to start the animation, and then I'll choose Shape Tween. So when I do that, you'll notice that my layer turns into that orange color, and if I scrub, you will notice that it morphs the way we did it on the previous animation, on the previous movie. So this is fine, but let's say I don't want this to be rotating as it goes. I want my circle to sort of expand out into a rectangle. How do I do that? Well, here's where the extra steps come in for creating that shape change. What we want to do first and foremost, before we do anything else, is go into View, and we want to make sure that we activate snapping to pixel level. We want that one active, meaning we don't want any intra-pixel information. And we go back to view, snapping, and we want to make sure that we snap to objects. Those are the things that we want to snap to, pixels and objects. That way, when we create the shape hints, they will actually snap to the object that we want them to be modifying. With those two things done, what I want to do is I want to go to the circle and I want to modify. We go to the modify drop down, we go to shape, and then we go to add shape hint. Notice that there's a shortcut, Control-Shift-H or Command-Shift-H on the Mac. So if we go add shape hint, it adds a little dot, a little red dot. It has the letter A inside it, and that is my first shape hint. So if I, let's say, place that, you'll notice that as I go to the border of my vector shape, it snaps to it. And that's what I want. I want it to snap to a point. I want that to be my first point. Then I go to modify, shape, add shape hint. Now the second one has a letter B inside it. So that's going to be my B point. I'll go once again, modify, shape, add shape hint. That's my C point. And for the last one, I'm going to use the shortcut. And there it is, my D point. So now I know that these are the hints, the hint points that this shape is going to use to morph into my next shape. Now let me click on frame 30 to go to the rectangle, and you'll see that now I have all of my hint points, but they're all stacked up in the center of the shape, or in the center of the stage in this case. So what we'll do is I'll set my point D to this corner, which is where the other one went. Then I'll go to shape C and drag it to this corner. Shape B, which is the next one, and I put it in that corner, and then I go shape A and put it in this corner. You'll notice that they snap as I drag them close to it, and now when I scrub my video, my rectangle modifies the way I want it. When I play this back, I can see the animation happening smoothly. So this gives me a bit of control over how the shape tweening occurs. But as you can see, it does take a little bit more time to modify things, because I need to, if this was an amorphous shape, I would need to spend more time figuring out what goes where between the shapes, between the things that are morphing into one another, which would add to my time to my workflow, and it would make it can make things complicated. So as I said before, you need to balance out what your workflow is and whether something is worth doing or not doing. If you're going for organic animation, this is a must. This is something that you need to do. If you want more of mechanical animation but still have some sort of control on how things look a little bit more natural, then you would use probably motion tweening or classic motion tween.